I just want to say that over lunch, the secretary agreed with me that getting you guys licensed in the 47 different states where you want to teach is unnecessarily burdensome, and she's going to do something about that. Every year, the graduating class chooses a speaker from among their ranks who will represent them at commencement. And this year, that speaker is Tony Hollowell. I'm not going to say much about Tony because you all know him very well. Tony has spent the last 2 years at Resurrection High School and weathered a hurricane and a cross-country bike trip in the name of Catholic education. So, Tony, if you'll come up.
Madam Secretary, Dr. Mazar, Father Scully, ACE faculty and staff, family and friends, and distinguished guests. It is with great pleasure that, on behalf of my classmates, I welcome you to our commencement exercises. And to the first ever ACE class to have a 100% graduation rate, I have 3 words. We are finished. I'm still trying to figure out who in their right minds decided that would be a good idea for me to speak today. The only reason I could come up with is that everybody knew I'd be anxious to go to the reception and eat. So I promise I won't let you down in that regard. When thinking about what I might say at our commencement, I was constantly brought back to a story that my brother Matt once told me that he heard from a comedian. This comedian was explaining how he loved to verbally pick fights with people. And he always liked yelling at people and seeing them turn their head at his ridiculous antics. However, after yelling at someone and telling them how bad he was going to whip them in a fight, the comedian said he was always afraid of those few crazy people who would look at him with wild eyes and say, "Bring it on." I tell this story because I think it embodies who we are as ACE teachers. Our class is filled with crazy people who, in spite of immense obstacles in their way, look the obstacles square in the eyes and say, "Bring it on." When being asked to teach several classes of Spanish without any background in the language, Matt Vericki said, "Bring it on." When asked to teach 35 second graders, Patty Young said, "Bring it on." And my favorite, when asked to coach one of the most unathletic teams in the state of Texas and to have one of her only victories be against the School of the Deaf's junior varsity squad, all while trying to convince the team of the value of hard work and unity, Kristen Scalia said, "Bring it on." And when asked to teach the daughters of the United States Secretary of Education, well, I think it's safe to say that we're all glad we do not have the pressure of that responsibility. That's one tough parent-teacher conference. When faced with immense challenges, our class has always responded with a loving commitment to the task at hand. Often we take on challenges that are much bigger than we have been prepared for. We fight against odds that are rather small, and we make sacrifices for things which we may never attain. And when asked why we would make a commitment with so little certainty, my only answer would be is that we are a group of hopeful people. We are a group of people who hope and dream for a brighter future. We are a group who believe that there's a world of love that's yet to be established, and we work with the utmost diligence to achieve this dream. One of my favorite quotes is by T.E. Lawrence, who said, "All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their minds wake in the day to find it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act on their dream with open eyes to make it possible." Our class is full of dreamers of the day. People are not content with just dreaming about bringing forth some good in the world. Rather, we toil with waking eyes, or at least somewhat hazy eyes on those dreaded Monday mornings, to bring about the good that we wish to see in the world. It's possible to ask the question, why do we labor in hope? Why do we spend so much time, so much energy into something which we might not see the fulfillment of? Why do we plant seeds in a field whose harvest we may never enjoy? We do this because we know that we've been called to serve as teachers. And there may be just that one life or that one scenario in which you have the opportunity to improve. This week at our retreat, one ACE teacher shared a story about one of his students who said, "I'm a strong believer in miracles, and I have witnessed one these past 2 years. I know that God sent you to our school for a reason, and I truly believe he sent you there to help me." When we follow what God has called us to do, we become workers of miracles. We become weavers of hope and servants of grace who bring life to those in need. Amidst the chaos that is our classroom, there emerges a work of grace that could have never been realized prior to our time teaching. And this is why we labor in hope, because we know that there is something we can do to make a difference. I often wonder what good I'm actually doing. I'm constantly bombarded with images and news reports that display the brokenness and emptiness of humanity. And in the midst of so much brokenness, it's easy to become discouraged and think there's little that we can actually do. What difference can a teacher in a small town like Plaquemine, Louisiana, make in the grand scheme of things in the world? In the greatest book of all time, The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien, someone asked Gandalf this exact same question. The White Wizard said this: "Other evils may come, yet it is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the betterment of those years wherein we are set, so that in the years that we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live may have clean earth to till. Whether they have was not ours to rule." When we begin to be discouraged at how little we may seem to be doing in the grand scheme of things, at how insignificant our work in our hectic classrooms may seem, we trust in loving hope and confidence that our work is not in vain, and that the brokenness which we uproot will leave a plot of land that can bear clean fruit. Our ACE 11 class is a fellowship of dreamers of the day, people who toil with their waking eyes to uproot the brokenness in the fields where we have been called to work, in the classrooms where we teach, and in the communities where we serve, struggling with the utmost diligence and persistence to do what we can in the time that we have been given. And inspired by Journey, we never, ever stop believing. And now the labors in our ACE classrooms is finished, and our fellowship, though not broken, is now being scattered and sent in many different directions. We are called to new fields to labor in, and a new adventure lies on the horizon, an adventure whose destiny is uncertain. For some, this may consist in remaining in the classroom, or others pursuing further studies. But regardless of the uncertain path on our horizon, and no matter where the tides of time may sweep us, there is no doubt that we will continue to be asked to be people of hope and love, and to give ourselves generously to those in need. Love is not a part-time job, a responsibility we must perform only when convenient, or for just a few years after college in a service program. Once we love, we will be asked to love unceasingly, just as our Heavenly Father has loved us. And regardless of the adventure before you and the dream that you now pursue, there is no doubt that this fellowship that has been fostered between us will be a fundamental part of who you are and how you will serve. So, our life's unfinished work remains before us. We will continue to take our gifts and give generously to those who can benefit from our talents, and we will labor in hope and love for a better world. It is at this point that we realize that our classrooms were only a stepping stone, a foundation upon which bigger dreams will be realized. ACE has molded us into the resilient, hopeful, loving, and crazy people that we are today. And there is a world that needs our talents as teachers, and not just teachers of content, but teachers and doers of love. We'll follow in the footsteps of our parents, our grandparents, our former teachers, and all those who traveled before us and made tremendous sacrifices for us to be where we are today, and gave us clean earth to till, in which we can build our own dreams. We take up their banner and strive to live up to the image that they have set by living lives, as St. Paul tells us, worthy of the call we have received. As ACE teachers, we often had much that was demanded of us. We were continually put in situations where there was no right answer and where there was no definite plan of action. There was just some task that needed to be done, and you knew you were the person who needed to do it. Christ tells us, when you have done all you've been commanded, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done what we are obliged to do. As ACE teachers, we are not heroes. We are servants. We are people who simply do what is asked of us. And it is our hope that by doing the tasks that are asked of us, we will begin to rebuild our Catholic schools, our communities, and eventually our world. Each of us has a small gift to offer, but when we put our gifts together, something special happens. In the end, regardless of the outcome, we know that we've only done what we are obliged to do. Anything else is from God's grace.